Hello, everyone. It's me again. So my name is Julius. For those who, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Julius Mbura. I'm the head of advocacy, legal, and computer assistive technology at Enable. And I'm very honored to sit amongst giants. I have the father of advocacy in Kenya and disability movement, Dr. Samuel Kabwe. Give it up for Dr. Samuel Kabwe. And I have Eric Ngondi, who's the chair of UDPK. Yes. So you can tell I'm the youngest in the room on the panel. Eric Ngondi is the in-between, and we have our father, who's Samuel Kabwe. We look up to him. I know it's difficult for me and Eric Ngondi to look up to him, but you know, we cannot all see. But we are here to unpack the Disability Act of 2025. This is a big step for Kenya. The Disability Act that we had was of 2003. And we've been fighting, the disability movement has been fighting to have an amendment of the same and to incorporate changes because of technology, assistive technology, digital accessibility, and all the emerging trends. So we're going to have a conversation. And I've seen this gentleman in another forum where we were trying to dissect the act and see what new stuff we have in there. And we're going to focus on the new stuff because it's not a new act per se. It's a refresh of what we had. And Daktari, yeah. Welcome very much.
Thank you.
Yes, I know we've come a long way. What do you think this means to have the Disability Act now, and the fact that we were depending on other laws like the UNCRPD?
Thank you very much. As Julius has said, the state came up with a first Disability Act in 2003. It was a long process, actually, a process that was begun in 1992. And all through the many things happened, and it was not until 2003 that it became an act. And as you can see, it came before the convention, which was adopted in 2006, and also before a new constitution in Kenya, which came into effect in 2010. During these two, the process of these two documents, Kenya participated a lot. We participated, for instance, in the promulgation and the discussions, negotiations of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. You can see our mark in that document. We also, as a disability movement, participated a lot in the coming up of the Kenya new Constitution of 2010. And from 2009, we started feeling that our act, the 2003 Act, which we had taken part in development, was no longer tenable. It was out of date. And so we started advocating for the process of coming up with a new act. And that process took a very long time. We had very many versions. Every time we would finish the work, it doesn't get far, and we are finding new issues coming up. And we are grateful that the convention, the act has now become effective. Actually, it was signed by the president on 13th of May, that is last month, and it came into effect on 27th of May, just about a week ago. What is new? The convention, the act actually domesticates the Convention, and it also brings into effect portions of the Constitution that affect persons with disabilities. And I'll give an example of some. It's a long act, and we cannot talk about everything on it, but some of the features that are most important for us that were not in the old Constitution is an expansion of equality and non-discrimination. For the first time, the Act now recognizes denial of reasonable accommodation as discrimination. That's completely new, and it expands discrimination to quite many other aspects of life of persons with disabilities. The issue of, the next issue is the issue regarding women. Our former act did not have any clause specific to women with disabilities. And the whole question of the empowerment of women with disabilities, their protection, and their equality with the rest of the people are very well documented in this document. For the first time, we also have a section on the youth. And the youth, we are dealing with the issues of empowerment. We have, for instance, in this country, an empowerment fund for the general youth, and people with disabilities who are not, youth with disabilities who are not very well embedded in it. And we are saying now the new act comes up to say people with disabilities need to be given opportunities to be empowered like any other. We also have a new clause that was not in the old act on older persons with disabilities. People are aging. I'm one of those aging. And the whole question of protection of people who are elderly was not mentioned in the old act, and it's something that we are very proud of. On the area of accessibility, we had accessibility on buildings and on transport. But the new act now has brought in accessibility of communication, IT, and you know Kenya came up with the standards. We mentioned these standards before here, and the act somehow brings about the bringing into effect of the standards, of the IT standards. And you know IT has been a feature of this conference. So that's a very, very important area. Government is being charged with the responsibilities of ensuring that people with the disabilities are able to benefit from e-government. Many of the government services are now being operated through e-platforms, and we are saying this was not something that was seen before, and is something that we now need to put more pressures on. Of course, you realize that a legislation is just a paper unless forces are put into making it effective. And we are talking of the need for OPDs, organizations or persons with disabilities, sitting down and ensuring that this document is effected. Not that they will do it, but they will push those who are supposed to do that. The other new area that we need to talk about is the area of bringing into effect the provision that is in our Constitution that the government will ensure progressive realization of 5% representation of persons with disabilities in all elective and appointive positions. This now has become part of the law, and we are saying we want to see regulations, we want to see guidelines as to how that is going to be effected. The other area is that of ensuring that people with disabilities can go to any school of their choice, can be educated alongside their peers, alongside their siblings, and alongside their friends. And Kenya had already committed itself to inclusive education. But these documents now bring in issues like the training of teachers for inclusive education, provision of resources and materials, and use of technology in education for people with disabilities of all types. The other area we have covered is that of employment. We have a quota, and we are saying now we want to see how this quota can be implemented, because in the previous document there were no sanctions, there were no means of ensuring that it happens. Government never made any regulations to ensure that that will happen. So employment has new areas, and it also recognizes this issue of reasonable accommodation. Another area is that of medical care. This government has come up with the issues of free medical care for persons with disabilities through this act. But up to now, we don't know how that will be happening. And in a forum that Julius here mentioned, one of the recommendations we are working is for the ministry responsible to do regulations on how that will happen. And we say this because we knew the Children's Act, the Ordinary Children's Act we have in Kenya, had a provision that children with disabilities would be treated free of charge, but we know that never happened, even though it is in the law. We want to see that what has now been embedded in this law takes place.
Thank you, Daktari. I know there is a lot that we can get into, dive deeply into. We have even penalties, and these have been, they've been put as very strict, measures to ensure that persons with disabilities are considered as human beings, And to you, Eric, I know, and Daktari, I'll come back to you because of the report that we prepared and how to go about it to make sure that implementation and enforcement is actually achieved. But Eric, in the past, and we saw the establishment of a National Council of Persons with Disabilities through the Disability Act of 2003. I think the NCPWD, National Council of Persons with Disabilities, was later on established in 2004. And in this new act, there's a lot of powers that they've been given. There's even a provision of the council having to bring on board experts, auditors, to make sure that in every sector, because Daktari has mentioned health, there's transportation in there, there's a digital accessibility, there's so much that the other act didn't have that we have now. What do you think will be the next step for the council? Or what are we expecting to see as a refresh? Because you are the chair of the board of one of the biggest, organizations of persons with disabilities. What do you think is the next big thing for the council?
Thank you very much, Julius. Good morning, everyone. I'm thrilled and excited to be part of this panel. Indeed, it's what Julius said, that I stand in between Julius and Dr. Kabwe here, who happened to have been the chair of UDPK back in the 1990s. So indeed, while he's the father of a disability movement in this country, I am a child of the disability movement in this country. And now, on to the question that Julius is asking. Yes, indeed, we are thrilled about the new Act to Persons with Disabilities 2025. It's what Daktari has said. It aligns very well with the international treaties, the CRPD, the ADP, the Africa Disability Protocol, and now our Act. The Council, which is a creation of the Persons with Disabilities Act, has been indeed enhanced in terms of the mandate, in terms of what it can and what it cannot do. And for us as as the umbrella body of organizations of persons with disabilities in Kenya, we look forward that the council, the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, will quickly now take up its proper role within, as prescribed within this act, and take on the proper action. So, for example, the first thing I think is what, Julius, you've said, the issue of having instructors, facilitators, and auditors around the issues of accessibility, not only in terms of the infrastructure, but even online, even ICT accessibility. That's one of the things that the council should take on quickly so that we do not continue languishing inaccessible environments as persons with disabilities. Of course, this will take measures such as forming regulations, as what Dr. has said. We also need, of course, guidelines within this act, and this is the role of the National Council and the respective ministries. So as organizations of persons with disabilities, we look forward to them taking up this and not taking longer than necessary. But indeed, it will take all of us to support the National Council for Persons with Disabilities and the responsible ministries, for example, the National Treasury, the Ministry of Transport, the Ministry of Social Labor and Protection, all those, and even the Ministry of Health, all those responsible for formulation of the different regulations, guidelines, and even notes around how to go about certain things. And also, you've mentioned about the issue of enforcement, and this is quite, what do you call it, very conspicuous in the act, that indeed if some of the things are not done, or if some of the things are not done, then there will be consequences. So for example, one of the things Dr. has mentioned here is the issue of discrimination. And we know that in the act now it says if persons with disabilities are discriminated based on their disability in terms of areas which are not inaccessible, such as the areas work, issue of reasonable accommodation, they can be fined up to 5 million or 1 year imprisonment. So that is well prescribed in the act, and it's upon the National Council for Persons with Disabilities to take its proper role and take on the action. And also, of course, supported by us. We know the issues of funding, the issues of bringing different stakeholders in a room and working together towards developing, for example, a regulation around, for example, provision and supporting of tax exemptions for caregivers, which is now prescribed in the new act. So indeed, it will take all of us, but the lead in this case, and as all of us know, the duty bearer in this matter is the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, of course, by the Mother Ministry, the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. Julius, back to you.
Thank you, Eric. I like how the new act brings even stakeholders in the disability space. You've talked about caregivers. The previous act did not have tax reliefs for caregivers, and now we see a moment of recognition for the caregivers and for them being relieved of some taxes, and even for manufacturers who are innovating on assistive technology. And the reason why we are here is to ensure that even for young innovators, people are bringing solutions, and even for importation of assistive devices and assistive technology, they actually have tax reliefs now. Dr. I know there's that report that we came up with, and we have thought leaders here, and we are speaking about Africa at large. The other day I was having a conversation with the youth from different countries, and they're telling me of how they have beautiful acts, some going back as 2011, 2010, and all these countries, they are experiencing, in one way or another, challenges when it comes to implementation. So what do you think we can do to ensure that it's actually implemented to the fullest, but also what can other countries emulate as an example from what Kenya has achieved with the new act.
Thank you very much, Julius. But allow me to talk of two other new areas that have come into this act that are very, very important. One of them is that of equality before the law, legal capacity of persons with disabilities. We are aware of the marginalization of people with psychosocial disabilities, autism, people with intellectual disabilities, in regard to this issue of equality before the law and the whole question of legal capacity. And this is another area that has come into this new law. And we are saying that the whole question of supported decision making is now embedded in this law. And people with all types of disabilities have the legal capacity. And then this has been supplemented by another article on access to justice. And in access to justice, we are even requesting the justice system, the judiciary, to come up with the regulations to ensure that persons with disabilities are properly cared for within the justice system, whether as victims, whether as judges, magistrates, or even as witnesses. So these are two very important areas. Now, coming to Julius's question, I want to give an example of what OPDs, organizations of persons with disabilities, have done in the past to ensure that we follow up the commitments of government. For instance, when Kenya was revealed by the convention, by the Committee of Experts on the Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities in September 2015, we came back with what I'll call the concluding observation or recommendations. And we asked the government, how are you going to implement this concluding observation? And the government said, we would like to, but we would like to come up with a plan on how to do it, and we don't have money. UDPK raised the funds, and we came up with a big program of work on implementation of the concluding observation. And out of that, a committee was formed for that purpose. Obviously, that committee followed up issues, and of course, it was later overtaken by the Global Disability Commitments of 2018, where the government now came up with a bigger committee that incorporated government departments, OPDs, and other stakeholders in disability to come up with what was called Interagency Coordinating Committee. And the Interagency Coordinating Committee was looking mainly at the GDS, but GDS alongside what was recommended. We have, as organizations of persons with disabilities, sat down and come up with a long list of what needs to be done, what the problems are, and what the challenges could be. And we want to see how we are going to put this into implementation. Just now, the government of Kenya is renewing the Interagency Coordinating Committee, and we know the OPDs will be part of this. And we believe that we will undertake the implementation of the Persons with Disabilities Act as the main agenda of the Interagency Coordinating Committee to ensure that it is not forgotten. The Interagency Committee the Secretariat is the Ministry of Labor, the Division of Disability, and it's normally chaired by a non-state actor, either a disability NGO or organizations or persons with disabilities. And we believe this will be a way. We If the government tell us they don't have resources to put us together to come up with an action plan, we'll see what we can do. But this is where we are. We have already identified all areas of action, and of course, that happened a week ago. So we are going now to begin our advocacy on how this can be done, and we think the interagency committee is one of the avenues to deal with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Daktari, every time I sit down with Daktari, I learn something new, and that's what makes him the father of the disability movement, because if you don't have such, committees, the interagency committee, you will not have people to follow on what has been put down. Because we all know it's one thing to come up with an act, but it's another to actually have the act implemented and benefiting the persons with disabilities. There's a bright future with the new act. And coming to you, Ngondi, I know we have organizations of persons with disabilities represented here. We also have other stakeholders, even from other countries. What would you tell the private sector in regards to, I know, like National Council, of course, is under the government, and the organizations of persons with disabilities will be pushing, the public sector to actually have all these beautiful things that we've brought as now the act to be implemented, enforced. But what would you tell the private sector? And we see a lot of reference to what even the 5%. It's very expressive right now of that it's not only the public sector that should have the 5% affirmative action. In the other act, and you can correct me, it actually gave only provisions of the public sector. So we have the private sector that we need to hold accountable, and we know that there are so many interlinking things like employment, and opportunities, and also looking at the disability space at large. What do you have to tell the other stakeholders?
Thank you very, very much, Julius. It's a very important and loaded question because, what's the role now of the private sector? I think there are many things that we can do as private sector, of course, collaborating and working together with organizations of persons with disabilities and persons with disabilities, of course. And I think the first area we can say is really to, what can I call it? Be open-minded. I think that's the first thing. For me, because the biggest thing that persons with disabilities face is the attitudinal barrier. So for me, one of the biggest requests I could call private sector is to be open-minded. But of course, the second thing, in addition to being open-minded, then provide those opportunities. And opportunities are not only in employment, but employment is, of course, very big, but also providing opportunities in terms of provision of businesses. In Kenya, we have the access to it's called AGPO, access to government opportunities. But now we believe also private sector, you have a huge role to play in terms of providing opportunities to persons with disabilities. Indeed, yesterday you saw persons with disabilities, innovators, exhibiting their products, their services, and that's one area that you can plug in. The area of employment is big. Persons with disabilities have skills, they have experience, and indeed they are able to provide these services just like any other person. So look out for these people. Do not be shy, do not be scared, be open-minded, get out and look for these persons with disabilities. Persons with disabilities also have a role to reach out to the private sector so that it takes two to tangle. Because sometimes as OPDs, organizations of persons with disabilities, we look at big organizations, even small organizations. We think if that organization is composed of two people, the owner and maybe one other person, maybe they may not be able to provide me an opportunity. But indeed, that's why persons with disabilities are here and you can provide these services. I think the other thing that private sectors can, together in collaboration with persons with disabilities, is the issue of capacity building and awareness creation. to others as well. So for example, if I give a case of Safaricom as a leader of our Kenya Business and Disability Network, by the sheer fact that it's Safaricom, it's able to call out other employers to come on board and be part of this network, which is a network building confidence for employers and the other private sectors. So this is one of the areas, for example, you can plug in and just be confident enough around the issue of disability. I think the final thing will be, of course, to call the private sector to as well work with the government and organizations of persons with disabilities in now not enforcing, but actually making the act a reality in terms of the regulations, in terms of the guidelines and such.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julius.
And what you might not know is that actually Eric Ngondi is part of, and you're the vice of Kenya Business Disability Network.
Yes, Julius. Yeah. Of course, United Disabled Persons of Kenya is the vice chair of Kenya Business and Disability Network, where yours truly is the...
Yes. So you can see that there's room for collaboration, synergies, and I like the fact that now persons with disabilities are taking up, the role of advising, and the fact that we have our father of disability movement to lead us in the right direction. And as we wrap up, Daktari, I know, we normally say, don't confuse movement with progress. And we are here today to unpack what the Disability Act has. It's not even 1 month old, but coming next year, what do you think we'll have to report? And I know we have the report of the Unpacking Committee of what we've discussed and the next steps. What do you think are the low-lying fruits, and what do you expect to see in a year's span? By the time we're coming next year, what can we tell our audiences has been uptaken, and what do you think is rightfully low-lying, so that we can start with those as we implement the biggest and the broadest of clauses in the Act?
Is it me?
Yes, Daktari. Sorry.
Thank you. What can we see ahead? But before that, I want to again mention 2 other important new areas of consideration in this Act. In the previous Act, as I said, it came into being long before Kenya had the new constitution. The new constitution provides for 47 governments. We call them county governments. These are governed by themselves, governed by a governor, maybe close to what is in Nigeria. And these have their own parliament, and they develop their own laws. And in the past, we have had difficulties in implementing disability concerns in the counties, because the counties have been saying that disability is not a devolved function. It's a function of the central government. Now, this Act provides that the county governments are bound by its provisions. It even provides specific actions in which they will be involved. They are, for instance, supposed to give services to persons with disabilities. They are supposed to ensure they keep statistics of persons with disabilities in their area, and they are bound to see that they employ at least 5% of their employees as persons with disabilities. That is a very important area that we have come up with. There's something that has also been alluded close to what Julius here has asked Eric here. This is the recognition that private organizations need some incentives even to employ persons with disabilities. And the Act provides for some tax rebates, some tax exemption on part of the resources that are used in employing or providing a reasonable accommodation for persons with disabilities. We are saying regulations are needed in that area. Now, what shall we report when we come here next? One, we want to report the number of regulations that will have been put into place, because some of these provisions will not be put into effect unless there is a kind of regulations. Other areas will need guidelines. We have talked of principles in this act, principles like equality, non-discrimination, accessibility, recognition of the capacity for children, equality between men and women. We will want to see what are the regulations that ensures that these things are going to be adhered to by the various arms of the government, as well as by those private sectors that will need to be involved. So we are looking forward to implementation of this convention, of this act, and we do know that it takes a long time, and some of the areas of the old act were never implemented because regulations were never prepared. For instance, adjustment orders that Mr. God here talked about, they were never implemented. The whole question, access to TV programs, and so that, those came as a by the way, not quite as an implementation of the act. But we are now hoping that we can push the government to do the regulations where they should. We will push the council to do the regulations where they should. And we believe that next time we come here, we'll have told you what areas have been implemented by ensuring that regulations are in place. Thank you, Ben.
Yes, thank you, Daktari, and we'll hold you up to that. I know for the three of us, we are not seeing time, and we can continue here, discussing on and on. One thing,
Julius, you don't see time?
we hear time.
You all other things are not time?
The three of us here, we can be called the three blind mice, but I'll come to Ngondi, and I would like us to wrap up, so that we can start, folding our sleeves to get to work, There's a new point that has been brought by Daktari of the new act actually bringing stuff that were not there. And I really like the clause on service animals. They were not recognized in the old act. I'm looking forward to get a guide dog myself. This is not something that we have locally, and even in Africa we struggle because of cultures that we have. So it's a paradigm shift of how the Disability Act looks at persons with disabilities, their rights, independence, and also how they integrate into the society. Eric, what are your last words, knowing that you are very close to the fire? We are taking the mantle from Daktari here.
Thank you very much, Julius. You and I, it's great to be under a great mentor like Dr. Kabwe here and many other greater persons with disabilities in the room. And so I think my last words will be two. One, that it will take all of us to push the pin further down in light of the Persons with Disabilities Act. We need, as organizations of persons with disabilities, as private sector, and as Enable, I think we have a huge role to ensure that then next year when you come here, some of these things are reality, so that we do not continue saying we really have good documents in Africa, in Kenya, but no action. I think the second thing is to encourage all of us and say that not only the act, but there are also other regulations and frameworks around which can also be used to support and enhance the act. So for example, the Kenya just did the National Building Code 2024. This can also support our act to ensure that the accessibility that we all need, both in infrastructure and online as well, is possible for all of us. So, Julius, I think that's what I just wanted to say, that it will take all of us to tango. Thank you.
So it's not a one-man show, you know. We are looking to collaborate with everyone in the space and make sure that, you know, we actually achieve as much as we can and have persons with disabilities benefit from the new act. You know, there's a saying that goes, you know, when you're walking with someone, something unspoken happens. You either adjust to their pace or they adjust to your pace. For the longest time, people thought the disability movement was trying to adjust to the pace of the wider society. But is it the opposite? I'll leave that as a food for thought, but let me come to Daktari. What are your parting shots, Daktari?
My?
Your parting shots.
Thank you very much. I want to take from where Eric here has left, that the implementation of this act cannot take place unless we all join up. And we are glad that we have a very responsive division or department. We call it Department of Social Development. But we don't have as goodwill in other government departments. They have to be pushed. They don't do things just because they're in paper. They have to be pushed. And we can assure you that the disability movement here, led by UDPK, whose chair is my colleague here, we have all the responsibility to do advocacy and to move what we can. The point is, this bill, this act, was initiated by organizations or persons with disabilities. So we pushed it, though eventually it was taken up by very many people, and we cannot take all the credit for it now, but we initiated it. And as I said before, we have initiated other things, and I'm encouraging our people to continue moving on because we cannot stop until we have what we need. So I'm saying we all need to get together. The private sector, you have been very supportive in many ways. The international NGOs, like Site Savers, has been sponsoring the Interagency Coordinating Committee. We are very grateful, and we believe that we will continue to work together to see to it that we can make the provisions of this act a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'd like to know more about the Nigerian Act.
Yes.
Because when you are coming up with your act, you asked me to supply you with our act. The previous one, we would like to see what you have in yours today. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Daktari. We've had very impactful discussions with the youth. Actually, the Nigerian Act, I'm also looking forward to see what they have. And as Daktari has said, we are not stopping until we get to the top. We can only go up from here. And we are calling on everyone to join hands so that we can implement the Disability Act to the fullest and make sure that persons with disabilities get the lives they deserve, but also we improve on the lives of everyone, regardless of their abilities. You see, there is a recognition of even the elderly in the Act and persons who didn't have legal capacity in the past. So we'll be coming here to see what has been implemented. You've had very great, and there's a lot of work going on in the background. I'd like to recognize efforts made by a nominated senator, Crystal Asige. We all know her. She was very critical in pushing for, the ascent of the Disability Act, the new one that we have. So that has been our time. I will not call ourselves the three blind mice. This has been the three blind visionaries. And we are looking into the future.
It's a
squinting.
blind panel.
It's a blind panel. It's a blind affair. So thank you very much. And we are looking forward to working together to make the new Disability Act of 2025 a reality. I want next time when we come, we'll not be talking about the new, it will be the existing and ever forward latching to make sure that we all succeed and we are all recognized as contributors of this great nation and beyond, because we all need the regulations Daktari and Ngondi was talking about. Give it up for Daktari and Eric Ngondi.